What up, everyone? How's it going? Welcome to another episode of Hi, I'm Doctor. And this week we have an interesting guest. And I was blown away when I was reading his I guess what do you call CV?
Fancy resume.
You're more of a business guy now. We have Derek Nordstrom on the podcast, and this guy, I guess we'll let him get into it. He's a dentist, he's an alcoholic, and I guess a software business dude now. Like I don't know what you're into, man. Tell the world, who is Derek Nordstrom?
Well, thank you for inviting me to your podcast, guys. Just some history. Necky and I kind of go way back. We worked together years and years ago in Eastern Alberta.
Yeah,
I've fled that area of the province to be more central now. My wife is from Rimby, but I used to send all my heart patients to Necky back in the day in '07 to 2019 when I was working in Wainwright,
yeah,
Alberta. Yeah, you
yeah.
were doing hospital dentistry, and I sent you all my kids and surgery cases, and we had a great working relationship. And I
And
sad
then
to say we
you moved away.
I did, yeah,
What
yeah.
the
You came
hell,
to my
man?
office once and introduced yourself, and you bought the clinic shortly after I bought mine,
Yeah,
and we're reunited again. So
I love it, dude. You've
it's
been doing cooler things than just dentistry, though.
I don't know
Uh,
about that, man. I was listening to some of your old episodes of the historical drilling millions when you were talking about buying a flooded clinic and you got 24 ops now, man. That's insane. That's probably the biggest clinic in Alberta.
Well, biggest flooded clinic at the
Biggest
time, I'm
flooded clinic.
sure, but
But no, man, you went from being on the podcast to hosting it. So
oh,
congrats.
Couldn't
I
resist.
killed, I killed. That was you, man. That's my homie here.
Yeah,
Couldn't
no,
Killed.
resist.
I put it all in motion, man.
I've been listening to a lot of your episodes, guys. I really enjoy your podcast. It's great.
Oh, geez,
So
thanks,
anyways,
man.
I'm
Appreciate it.
honored that you invited me on, and I will say I heard about your podcast through the Daily Floss, so Morning Floss. Shout out to Morning
Morning
Floss.
floss. Yeah, Bruce
I
and
actually
Elliot,
I
man. We
actually
we
spoke
we
with
love them,
Elliot.
man. They're wicked.
I spoke with
Yeah,
Elliot last week. He called me up from Toronto. My phone rang and said Toronto, and said it was Elliot, and chatted with him about business and stuff. He called me. It was great. I was pleased to make his acquaintance. He's a very interesting story. I listened to Bruce's podcast about how they met in the barbershop too. So
yeah.
learning all this stuff. It's super cool from your podcast. I highly recommend it. So
So I first
Oh,
met
geez.
Elliot because I'd heard so much through Bruce and through the podcast. Um, and I remember I was at the Good Life, and it was some holiday, and it was for some reason my Good Life was open while others were closed, and I'm just exiting the gym, and I look to the right, and I see this guy with a laptop with Morning Floss stickers, and I have the same stickers, right? And I'm about to send a photo to Bruce, and immediately as I take my phone out and the camera out in the men's locker room, I'm like, this can't end well.
that's illegal. You're not supposed to take your camera out in the locker room.
I don't know if it's illegal, but it's definitely not. Yeah, straight to prison. But I just put my phone down for a second. I looked at the guy and I saw his tattoos, and I remember that story about the barbershop and where Bruce said, I went up to this guy with a bunch of cool tattoos, and I knew we would be friends, and I saw his tattoos, and I'm like, by chance, are you Elliot? And like, kudos to him. He has such a good recognition of faces. He's like, Akil, what's up, man? I was like, wait, what? Like, it's you. I almost sent a photo of you to Bruce, like trying to be like, oh yeah, look at this guy at the gym. The morning floss
Yeah,
stickers.
I got a funny story why he called me. I signed up to the Morning Floss, I don't know, maybe like a month ago. One of my associates told me about it, and I started getting more spam email from like increase your dental revenue to get a dental website. And I erroneously thought that I was getting it from the Morning Floss, like selling their mailing list or something. And they don't sell it. They absolutely don't. I sent them an email and saying, hey, I just noticed I'm getting more spam. Like I was wondering, like, I'm not really happy about getting a ton of spam now. Is this from you guys? And he called me right away personally and was like, it's not from us. We've never sold you our mailing list. I guarantee you I'm the only one that's seen it. We're not planning on like monetizing our email list. And stand up guy. I really appreciated that phone call and that clarification, and just coincidence. And I've stayed a subscriber and I'm happy with their product. It's great.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. I think they're wicked. What are you gonna say, Akil?
Yeah.
I said, where was this band from?
I don't know, man. It may be I went to the PDC as an exhibitor too, and it could be from that, because like when I went to the PDC as an exhibitor for toothe, I started getting emails to like, hey, do you want to buy the mailing list of like every dentist in whatnot.
Man,
that went
I
to
got
the
those as
PDC.
well. And they're like
Yeah.
15,000 names. I probably got
Yeah,
10 of
exactly.
those
So
emails.
I didn't
Yeah.
buy it because like I don't really want to send spam emails to people I don't
Yeah.
even know. But I mean, it could have been from that. So I just kind of like, I thought, maybe it was from the Morning Floss, and I reached out to them just for clarification. And he called me right up, like on my phone, and chatted with me. He's a great guy. Like,
Yeah.
stand up move. Highly
The Kill,
recommend.
I think you're getting a lot of those from all those foot fetish sites you've been subscribing to and trying to get me to hook into. But
Oh,
If I start getting
let's
foot fetish emails tomorrow, I blame Hi, I'm Doctor.
yeah. I love we're gonna start collecting emails just to do that.
Yeah.
I remember when I was in high school, I used to like on back then it was like, mailing lists were a thing. And so you'd sign your buddies up on like heroin addiction sites and
or like
inside
dating
inside
sites.
a 16-year-old mind. Yeah, right.
Man, we're old though.
Man,
Like
we're
I remember living in a dorm in university when we had Napster and LimeWire, and my buddies
yeah.
would sit there watching the song download till it hit 99% and then close it on them.
Yeah. 3 kilobytes per minute. Man, I remember all those
Oh
days too,
gosh.
man.
Yeah, those are good
Man,
old
we're
days.
detracting here. We're detracting. We have Derek on the pod here. And Derek, you've been doing some interesting things. You're not only a dentist, as I alluded to. I know you're not an alcoholic, but you own a brewery.
No, that is a large problem in the brewing industry, but I don't think I'm an alcoholic yet.
Wait, is it like was that a joke or was that a
No,
fact?
the brewing industry has a large problem with alcoholism. A lot of people drink on the job. I don't brew beer. My partner's a brewer. I'll get into the story how I started a brewery, but I'm involved in financial management of it. I'm not involved in like brewing beer. I taste it, but it's a problem in the industry. We have pretty strict rules for our staff that like, if there's miss pours, as they're called, like someone orders a
Yeah.
stout and you pour them a golden ale or IPA, they're like, oh, I don't want that. Like we pour them out. The staff don't drink them in the back, right?
Man, I wish I had that rule. I used to work at Pizza Hut and I
Yeah.
used to purposely mess up pizzas just so I could eat them. And then when I was like, 220 pounds in like grade 11, it turns out that maybe throwing them away would have been the better option there. So I like that. I like that idea.
It's a problem in the industry. But we try to put forward thinking rules in for our staff to try to protect them. We don't let our brewing team drink all day when they're brewing and or canning beer, for example. So, but no, I'm a dentist first and foremost. I practice 3 days a week currently. When we knew each other back in the day, I was 5 days a week, obviously. Then I opened another clinic in Rimbey, Alberta, where my wife's from, and I worked 6 days a week for a year. I don't recommend it, but when the sun shines, you got to make hay, as they say, right? Or when you're deeply in debt, you got to pay the loans. You don't have a choice.
So Derek, so you used to work in Wainwright and then you sold your practice. Did you sell the corporate or did you sell it to private?
Yeah, no, I sold the corporate.
Yeah.
So
how was that?
Wonderful.
Really?
Yeah, highly recommend.
Man, tell us.
So that's a very unpopular opinion. I feel like.
Yeah.
So like to back up to start at the beginning, I graduated from the University of Alberta in 2005. So I'm aging myself.
Yeah.
I'm 42 years old right now. I've been doing dentistry since 05. If you count the 2 years of clinical in school, 03, I've been doing dentistry now in mouths, wet finger for 20 years. So I moved to Whitehorse in, as I called it back then, the Yukon. Now they call it Yukon. But I worked in Whitehorse for 2 years for Ron Pearson at Klondike Dental Clinic and cut my teeth, so to speak. Ron was a great mentor and boss. I loved working up there. I was up there for a year and a half, just about 2 years. And I was dating my now wife, Alberta girl. She's from Rimbey, Alberta. She was finishing up hygiene school and then wanted to move back to Alberta, get married. I grew up in Viking, Alberta, which is close to Wainwright by Uneki. And my dad told me, my dad was a dentist. He's like, oh, my friend Ken in Wainwright wants to sell his practice. I was bringing my wife back from Whitehorse. She was up for the summer helping me. She was dental assistant for the summer. And he said, why don't you go look at the practice in Wainwright? And I said, yeah, sure. I'll go look at it. And then my wife's mother was going to the dentist in Rimbey, getting a crown done and said, oh, my daughter's fiance is a dentist and they're looking at a clinic in Wainwright. And he's like, oh, tell them to come look at my clinic. I want to sell it too. So I thought, okay, this is great. We'll go look at a clinic in Rimbey where my wife's from, and we'll go look at a clinic in Wainwright, close to where my family's from. We'll have 2 options. So we looked at both, and the Wainwright practice, from a business sense, was a far better practice. You were there. It's a purpose-built concrete and steel dental office. Dr. Toothe, who I bought it from, he split up from his previous partner about 12 years before that over irreconcilable differences, I guess you'd say.
Like partners and like life partner or dental partner?
Dental partner. Your other
man,
life partner.
I find that so much. Like,
you have a partner?
You're good for like 5 or 7 years, like at work.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got 2, and they're my best friends.
Yeah, awesome. I hope it works out. I don't have a business
I know,
partner.
but
I have a wife. That's
but
enough.
It doesn't always work out.
No,
yeah.
No. So anyways, the point of the story is he split up with his dental partner, and in the twilight of his career, spent $1 million building this brand new dental clinic to like coast out his career. And his wife was a receptionist, and Dr. Tuvel's a prince of a man, amazing dentist, great with his patients, but he worked 4 days a week, 6 hours a day, didn't do surgery, didn't do endo, didn't do ortho, didn't do anything. Went for 2-hour lunch breaks and went home at 3 o'clock. So I started working there 5 days a week doing everything, and it was a great business decision. And the clinic in Rimbey was an older clinic above a restaurant, and I was like, well, if I buy this place, I just got to build a new office, and I couldn't afford that, and eventually I did, and here I am. So what's that Drake song? Started at the bottom. Started in Wainwright. Now I'm here.
Started in Wainwright.
Anyways, I worked in Wainwright at that clinic from 2007 until 2019 when I sold to corporate. And in the meantime, my wife and I started having kids and wanted to raise our kids in Rimbey, close to her family. They're farmers. They're home a lot. They got a little land, so we bought a quarter section off them so my wife's actually out buying another cow today. She took my truck in the trailer and drove to Valley View to buy a milk cow.
Wait, what? Why?
She makes cheese.
So what, you need the whole cow? Can't you buy the milk?
No, you can't make cheese out of pasteurized milk you get in stores.
So you have to buy the cow? So where do you keep the cow? In a guest room?
Barn.
Oh my God, Toronto boy, just throwing yourself out here.
We have land, like so open spaces and
you have a barn where you keep this cow that you bought to get the milk to make the cheese.
Yeah, well, she already has like 9 cows, but this is a better cow.
How is it a better cow?
Her other cows don't give her enough cream, and one of them didn't catch from the bull, so it's not having a calf, and they only milk when they have calves. And
so you maintain this cow year round.
I get a kill to come to Alberta, so he sees all this in action. You've probably never even seen livestock before.
But I just can't charge you for it. It's illegal to sell raw milk.
What?
You can't sell raw milk. It's illegal.
Really?
But you could sell the cow? How does that make any sense?
This is bureaucracy, my friend.
So I could order a cow, keep it in my underground parking garage.
Yeah.
And make cheese.
Yes.
Okay, go on with your story. Continue.
We wanted to live in Rimbey, Alberta. And so I built the clinic that I'm in now. But to get to the point of this, I was fortunate enough to be approached by 123 Dentist in early 2019 about my office in Wainwright. And I was currently working 6 days a week between 2 clinics, 3 hours each way. Get up 3 a.m, drive to Wainwright, work all day, stay overnight, work the next day, drive 3 hours home, work Friday, Saturday in Rimbey. I really, really have a lot of respect for 123. One of your first interviews was with the CEO of 123 on your Drilling Millions podcast.
Yeah, I'm in Shivji.
Yeah. He's I've never met him personally. I'm a 123 partner dentist now. I don't actually work at my clinic, but I have a lot of respect for what he's done. He's a very respectable man.
So why do you think your experience was so different than a lot of other folks? Because all you hear in the market is corporate's bad. So why was your experience different?
So I talked to a lot of people that are trying to do a deal with corporate, I'm fairly close with 123 Dentist. I do a lot of their compliance work now with my company toothe, and they've been a wonderful partner with me professionally. But their guy John that buys clinics, he gives people my name to chat with them before, and I always tell people, if you're considering selling to corporate, I said you need to be really, really honest with yourself about why you're selling, and you need to tell them like what you want out of this deal. And it might be money, but it might not be money, right? Like for me, with Wainwright, I said I don't live there. My family's in Rimbey. I'm driving 3 hours each way. I have a hard time managing it. I just want someone to manage it, and I don't want to get a phone call saying, I have to go back there if a dentist quits. Like, this is for me what I want. And I said, for you, it might be, I just need money to retire in 5 years. I hate dealing
Yeah.
with staff. I want you to hire and deal with all my staff issues in HR. It might be any number of things that you don't like about running your business. Because as you know, like Nicky, you've got a huge clinic. I mean, it's hard. Business is hard. I mean, you go to work at 8 a.m. and you want to do dentistry, not run a business, and stuff's piling up on your desk you got to deal with. So I always tell people that are considering selling corporate, be honest with them about what you want out of the deal. Why are you selling? It might be money, it might be HR, it might be, for me, it was like where I lived. And I said they'll work with you to solve the problem you're having and help you, meet the goals you want for your life. And with 123 in particular, they're owned by a dentist, and it's run by dentists, and the second in command comes from Sinclair. He's very well versed in the dental industry, and they've been good to their word. Everything they told me that they would do, they've been good for. They've done it. They don't come in and say, you're getting this, you're getting that, we're switching your practice management system, your staff are all getting pay cuts. I tell people with 123 in particular, if I can go back and do it again, I'd do it again. It wouldn't even be for the money they gave me, because they were good to their word for everything that they told me they would do. They were very flexible and accommodating with what I wanted for myself professionally. And I'm still their partner dentist. I oversee the clinic a little bit with the manager. I sign the PO orders. I know what's going on. I know when they're needing a dentist, who they're hiring. If I get a line on an associate through the dental school or connections I have, I'll pass it along. And it's been a wonderful partnership for me, because I'm still their partner dentist, and obviously their business model is I own a minority of the clinic. But and I still own the building too, and they rent it from me. No problems there at all. They take care of all the repair and maintenance and that sort of thing. And it's given me freedom and flexibility to do other things in my life, like take time off, be with my kids, start the brewery, and now started the toothe.
So I've always been hesitant to go down this corporate route, because I just felt like I could never trust it. Like, right now I'm doing fine. Why do I want to bring on a partner and then I gotta report to them for 5 years and then I can peace out? Like, I just don't understand the model. Why would you still want to be a part of it? Why wouldn't you just sell the whole thing?
Well, corporate requires you to be a partner, but they offer generally more money, a higher multiple than a lot of people can afford now. I mean, that's strictly speaking that they've driven the valuation up, right?
Yeah. But like, why do you want to, like, why wouldn't you just sell the whole thing? Like, if you can't even be in that area, like, why do you want to continue to be a part of it? Why wouldn't you just sell it to another dentist? Is it only just because they give you a higher multiple, but don't you still have the stress of trying to run it and trying to deal with problems? Like, their management can't take care of everything, can they?
They have for me.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, like I said, they were very flexible and accommodating with what I wanted. And I said, I don't want to get a phone call saying I have to come back here. And
Yeah.
we worked out a deal that for me, it worked great. And that might not be the deal for everybody. But like I said, I was honest with them from day one. I said, this is what I want.
Yeah.
This is the life I'm looking for. If it doesn't interest you, if this relationship doesn't interest you, then I'm not willing to move forward. And they were, and they've been a wonderful partner. But to answer your question, why would you sell corporate? It depends on your situation. Like for you, Neki, and you, Akil, when you're a young guy looking to get into business, like what are you guys like, mid-30s? Are you 40 yet, Neki? You're probably 40.
Yeah, 39, man. Dude,
Yeah.
this bald head is coming. Don't worry.
So like, I mean, to be honest with you, if you're happy in Lloydminster, don't sell. If you love what you do, don't sell, because they give you a multiple of, I don't know, say you've got the greatest practice in Alberta, which it sounds like you do at 24 ops, but say they give you a 10 times multiple, which is crazy high. I mean, it's usually like 7, 8, 9 or whatever, but like for argument's sake, call it 10. You just cashed out 10 years of your future income right now.
But don't you have to pay that all back? Like, don't they have to collect that over the next like 5 years? So you have to work so hard to make a certain amount every year. So you can't just cash out and leave. You gotta hustle for the next 5 years as hard as you can. Isn't that how it works?
Well, it depends on the deal, but generally, yes.
Okay.
So you have to stay an associate for 5 years, but they pay. I mean, whether they pay you up front or yearly, they're giving you a 10 times multiple. And the way a multiple is, it's multiple of EBITDA. So if you make $1 million a year, they give you 10 million. You just cashed out 10 years advance income, right? So you just cashed out 10 years of your practice, but you're 40 years old. That puts you 39. That puts you at 49. And now what?
Yeah.
You got $10 million. If you haven't wasted it, hopefully you've invested it wisely, but like you're 49. You could work till you're 79. Well, 69. But if you love where you live and you're doing well and you like it, you'd be remiss to cash out all your income ahead of time unless you needed the money for something or had some other business venture you wanted to get into and didn't want to deal with the stress of running the clinic. So it depends on your situation. Not everybody should sell to corporate.
No.
So,
but if your situation is such that you don't like your job or you hate dealing with staff, you just want to go home at 4 o'clock and not worry about equipment breaking down or with the janitor not showing up, then it could be for you. And I'm not here to pump up corporate. I'm just saying, for me, with the clinic 3 hours away from where I lived, I didn't want to have to go back there and get the phone call that an associate quit. I have to go back, and I was clear with them. And like I said, they were very flexible and accommodating. And if I could do it again, I would. And it wouldn't be for the money. It's because I quit grinding my teeth and I have far less stress in life.
For sure. And I think that's objective perspective is missing a lot in the industry. And that's exactly why our first episode was with Amin, because, I felt like traditionally that model was, for better or for worse, it was always dentists had a knee-jerk reaction against it. And, for good reason a lot of the time, because, some of the early DSOs didn't do a great job in prioritizing patient care. They didn't do a good job in prioritizing staff, engagement and staff retention. They really just saw it as a business and saw it as a commodity and wanted to buy it and flip it. So I think it was for good reason, but there are certain DSOs that are better than others. And I mean, in terms of the multiple, like they'll pay more. But I wouldn't recommend someone go to a DSO just because of the money, because there's plenty of people who are willing to pay the money nowadays, right? It's not so much the money. I think, like you said, it's about the individual circumstance. Like the 10x multiple, those were kind of before the inflation rate hikes. But I would be interested to know, though, from someone and from a perspective of someone who's actually sold and has seen their business transition. Neki and I, or actually Neki, said this thing to me the other week, and I thought it was really, really true. He goes, no matter what you say, if something goes wrong in a practice, no matter who the owner is on paper, it's the person in the practice that's going to get burdened, to try to find that solution. So, I mean, from a perspective of someone who sold to corporate, what were the tangible value adds? What were the tangible services that you benefited from?
Like me personally?
Yeah. Like did it was it all of the HR that was, no longer on your shoulders? Was it all of, because I can't imagine the next day it's like poof and the whole responsibility is gone and you just get this fat check. Like, what did that process actually look like for you?
It was pretty much like all the responsibility was gone and poof, I got a fat check.
Really?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that must have meant before the transition, you weren't, involved heavily in the day-to-day operations.
Well, I was only working there 1 day a week. Like I was actually
Okay.
2 days every second week was my schedule.
Mhm.
I don't recommend running a bi-weekly schedule. It's really hard scheduling staff. But I was barely there. So for them, it was a perfect clinic because I had 2 associates full time. I had all these like admin team and assistants and hygienists that worked there 5 days a week, ran the place. I was equivalent 1 day a week, and it was doing very well without me there. So for me to check out and be like, yeah, I'm done. I'm going to go to Rimby. They were fine with that. And in full disclosure, I did sign on to stay for a year, or I signed on and said I'd stay for at least 1 year and give them 1 year's notice. And COVID hit 3 months later, and we got shut down in March
Oh,
of 2020. And then they said in May, when we opened up, they said, don't come back. There's too many people here for social distancing. And I said, no problem.
uh,
So, I was supposed to go back for at least a year, and I went back for like 3 months, and then we were off for COVID. So coincidentally, it worked out quite well for me. But the manager there showed up the first day they bought it. She was great with the staff. They all, didn't get pay cuts, just reassured them everything would stay the same. And when my associates left to move on, as inevitably happens, it's not my job to find new ones. It's their job, but they have a lot easier time because of their huge network with 123. Which that was
so
my
if
hardest job, is finding associates, as you know, Necky, getting people to move out there stuff.
to, absolutely, man, but like, because you have to maintain a certain amount of revenue every year as part of the deal. And if you can't find an associate, or if they can't find an associate, does that work against you? Because then you can't like physically make the revenue because A, you're not there, and B, there's not an associate there. So like, are there such thing as clawbacks? Like, is
Yeah,
that a
that's what
thing?
they call it generally, as a clawback.
But like, you can't control whether there's an associate or not because that's their responsibility. So
That's
then would they
correct.
claw back from what they gave
Well, I
you?
can't speak to my specific deal, but like I said, they
No,
were
no,
very,
no, no. I'm just talking in general.
in
Because
general,
that's one of my other
that's
worries.
how,
Yeah.
yeah, in general, that's how it works. They pay you a lot of money, and then if you don't hit your
Yeah.
targets, but they're making more money there than when I was there. They're doing great.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Yeah.
sold them a great clinic. I mean, it wasn't
Totally.
chicanery. It wasn't like I sold them a house of cards. So, as you know, out in Lloydminster, there's not a lot of people out there. It's a captive market. It's a great place to do business.
Yeah.
For sure.
So
So
my experience, I agree with you. It's not for everybody. You got to go in, with eyes wide open and know, what you're getting into. But I will say they've got a wonderful program for CE and support and training, and they've been good partners. They've done everything they said they would and more. My staff are making more money than when I was there. They're making more money revenue, and they've got new associates there. They've been able to find them. For me, it's been a wonderful deal.
was it just the highest bidder? Was that the reason why you sold to corporate, or was there another reason?
Uh, no, that was the only. I didn't even farm it out to the other corporate groups. It was just 123 that approached me.
It was like corporate versus, another dentist, like dental
Like
to
another
dental.
dentist. Yeah.
Yeah.
I talked about selling it to my associates, and we went down that road briefly, and um, they weren't able to come to a business arrangement, my associates, to buy it, unfortunately. So I wasn't unwilling to make that transition with them, but it was they just didn't work out. And then corporate was there at the same time, and it worked out great with them. So
What about like an
So
outside dentist?
yeah.
I didn't even list it for sale. I was more than happy with the relationship that and what 123 told me. And I will say, like, the clawback scares people, but like when COVID hit, 123, like Amin and Ali, they said, don't worry about the clawback. We won't enforce it. Like, they're not unreasonable people. So after, when COVID hit, they said, we will not enforce the clawback. And then once we got rolling again, they gave them a credit for like more PPE and helped them source it. They bent over backwards to get people N95s and all the stuff they needed for their clinics. And then when things were rolling again, they said, okay, we're going to start the clawback again in September or what have you. If that applies to you. And full disclosure, and not many people have had problems with it. Like, not that wasn't every DSO that was like that, but 123 was very reasonable. And the thing you got to remember too is after your 5 years is up and you still are the partner dentist, like you said, Nikki, you said, oh, then you're done and you can go do whatever you want. Well, say you do whatever you want, you're still their partner dentist, and they still pay you percent of the revenue or percent of the income. This is wonderful. This is a dividend that goes on forever.
Yeah. I hear that. Man, there's lots, I guess there's lots of pros and cons. I like what you said though, because you said like every situation is unique, right?
And that's what I said at the beginning. You need to be honest with yourself.
Yeah,
you need to say, why do I want to sell? If I'm 5 years from retirement and I want to maximize the money and get as much as I can, and I don't care if they lock me into a clawback, I'll work Saturdays if I have to get that nest egg socked away, that might be your situation. But if you say, look, I love doing CE, I want lots of time off, I want all the resort, like 123 has a ortho program for iTero, that they've got an orthodontist on staff that helps you learn to do iTero, that'll review every case with you. Like, that's amazing.
Yeah, no, I hear that. And then it also allows partner dentists to open up breweries. Tell us about that.
Well, so my Rimby clinic, I own myself. I didn't sell them both my clinics. So like my day-to-day work is 100% on my own. I don't work for 123. They're a good partner with me, and I really respect them and recommend them highly. But my day-to-day work is not for 123 dentist. So I'm a little unique. But I was clear. I said my office is 3 hours away. I just can't run this place. So I worked in Rimby from 2014 to 2019, so 5 years driving in between. And then after I sold in 2019, I stopped grinding my teeth because I didn't have 10 staff, 2 associates, and 10,000 patients I had to worry about. Like when I was in Wainwright and my staff would go for Christmas, I put my phone number on the answer machine because I'm a nice guy, but to give them a break. And, I'm dealing with 2 clinics over Christmas, like stressful. And now I don't have to deal with that anymore. So, I mean, you deal with this with your patients all the time, Nikki. It's like stress is insidious. Like I hate asking people, are you stressed? That's condescending. We're all stressed all the time. My teeth hurt when I brushed them. And then after I sold my clinic, my teeth stopped hurting. I wouldn't even told you I was clenching and grinding. So for me, it was a great transition. I really respect what they've done, and I've been their partner dentist for 4 years now. And they've been good to their word. I would do it again. I honestly would. So, but it's not for everybody, Akil, like you said. I mean, it's good to investigate these things, and there are other doctors that are not DSOs that will pay full price. And, I think I just got lucky, but I mean, it would behoove you to put it for sale and invite offers from DSOs and non-DSOs alike.
Totally. And I think I'm all for that. And to your point, I don't think that you should just have a knee-jerk reaction, because typically that means that decision is based on emotion and not information, right? So
that's propaganda. If you have an initial, negative reaction to something, right away without considering it fully.
Totally. And I think that's the point of an advisor, right? You need to go to someone who has that unbiased information, because the issue talking to people, and probably the issue of this podcast sometimes, is you get a very deep, narrow perspective that you have to be aware enough to kind of take a step back and say, okay, it's sort of like reading a book, right? Like when you read a book, that's why I don't like reading books. I'm very picky with how many books or which books I read, is because you can get really deep into something and you're kind of locked in at that point, right? Because you're like 6 hours into an audiobook, into someone else's, way of thinking. And it's hard to take that step back and say, let me assess this objectively. Right. So I think that's maybe a drawback of the podcast even, right? Wouldn't you say, Nike? Like sometimes we just get so, seduced by, people on this podcast, and you're like, hell yeah, I want to start a brewery. Right?
Yeah, totally. Right.
I wouldn't recommend that.
Tell us how you started this brewery, man. Like I'm dying to know this, man.
So when I built my office in Rimby, I figured that I should be a commercial real estate baron. And I built a 12,000 square foot building with 1 unit for myself for my office. and then 2 spare units of 2,500 square foot each along the highway in Rimbey, right out in the field. And figured I'd rent them out. And then in October of 2014, the Saudis flooded the oil market and the oil market crashed. And then in Alberta in 2015, as you said in your podcast, Necky, when your investment advisor put you all into oil and then the NDP got in, oil goes like this. Your investment portfolio blew up and I wasn't able to rent my commercial space. So I sat looking at an empty building for like 3 years. And
it hurts you to stare at that shit, man.
So I thought, geez, I better start something here. And this is right when the brewery craze was starting in Alberta, when they got rid of the limits on production, and everyone and their dog was starting a brewery. And I thought, hey, a brewery would be great in Rimbey. And I'm not wrong. A brewery is great in Rimbey, and it's a super cool business, but it's a tough business. Dentistry is an interesting business because you make a 30% profit margin fairly easily. You just got to show up sober. Those 2 things. That's like 90% of the job. Show up sober. The last 10% is like iTero and Invisalign and full mouth reconstruction. Yeah, don't kill someone. But like showing up sober, you're gonna do well in life and make money. And unfortunately, there's a lot of dentists that don't do that. But a brewery, on the other hand, is a tougher business. So the way it worked, or the way it happened, was I put an ad in the Alberta Small Brewer Association newsletter, digital newsletter, for somebody that wanted to start a brewery in Rimbey, Alberta. I said, I got a great space. I have a big building. I got 5,000 square feet. It's got 20-foot ceilings. Is anyone looking to start a brewery? And a week later, this young guy named Randall phoned me, and he's actually got a YouTube channel now called Barn to Brewery. And he was a young guy with 2 of his friends, and they wanted to start a brewery. We sat in my dental office and they gave me some beer that they'd made. And I said, this is pretty good beer. And I said, well, how much money do you guys have? Like, well, how far along are you? Like, I've started a couple businesses and, built this building. I know I know something about business. And they're like, oh, well, like, not too much money and we don't have any experience in business. And I said, okay, well, why don't we meet in a week and we'll start making a business plan? And, I didn't really want to own the brewery at the time. I wanted to just rent them the space. Maybe give them a couple years free rent and, own 10% of it or something like that, help them out. And my wife and I were sitting there waiting for them to show up at the next meeting. My partner Randall pulled up and got out of his truck and walked into the restaurant. And I said, where's your 2 buddies? He's like, oh, they both quit. Because when the rubber hit the road, and I said, well, how much money do you guys have? Let's do this. They said, oh, well, we don't really want to put our money into the brewery. Like, it was all fine thinking about it until it came to actually like, let's sit down and put our money into this, get some skin in the game. So it was just Randall and I, and we started meeting every week. We made a business plan. We started visiting breweries and, planning it. And my wife, she designed the tap room, picked out the name, designed the logo. And long story short, we went to the bank, got a loan for half of it, raised money between ourselves, the other half of it, and built a brewery in a shoestring budget.
What was that experience? Because I bet you going to a bank, coming from trying to finance a practice where they're like trying to throw money at you and being like, hey, now I actually kind of want it for beer. I bet it was a different conversation.
I didn't actually go to the bank. I sent Randall.
Oh yeah.
He was the young guy that was enthusiastic about this, and he was going to run the brewery. So I didn't even go to the bank. I sent him. We wrote the business plan together. And my name's on the loan and everything, but he succeeded in getting the loan. There were banks at the time that were willing to fund breweries with the new expansions, and will be 5 years actually in December that we've been open, and it's going well actually. We've learned, like I said, it's a tough business. It's manufacturing and it's a restaurant. So you deal with spreadsheets and materials and input costs and overhead for your staff, and you need policies on if it rains, staff go home. You need policies on you're not allowed to drink at work and you're not allowed to eat the food on your lunch break. And you got to keep track of your materials and order in bulk when you can afford it. And it's a seasonal business. So very much so you have to put aside money in the summer to get over the winter. And, we've succeeded in coming upon a successful business model only after we failed at every other business model possible in the brewing industry. We tried to
Yeah.
do retail, we tried to do kegs, we tried to do no food in the brewery tap room, we tried to do too much food. We swerved ditch to ditch, took out a few posts on both sides, but we're keeping it between the lines now, and I'm happy to say we're profitable. Never missed a loan payment. The loan in our canning line is going to be paid off this December, which is wonderful. As you know, Neki, I'm sure once you start paying off your loans is a really happy day in the dental industry too. And
Yep.
then you have more money available for reinvestment and salaries, and you've got a little more freedom and flexibility. So I learned from the brewing industry that business is not as easy as I thought it was.
Yep.
And it's kind of a point of pride that we stuck with it and figured it out. And good management will solve the puzzle, because the brewery doesn't have a revenue problem. We have an expense problem. And when your margin's only 10%, like, you get a little crazy on your spending, you eat up 10% real quick. But dentistry, when your margin's 30% or more, you got a lot more leeway to buy dental equipment you don't really need, and you put it on a shelf, but it's not going to break you.
So Derek, I have to ask, dentistry is so much more profitable. Like you said, it's easier. We just have to show up sober, like exactly
Yep.
what you said, right? Why would you want to go into the brewery game? I know you were trying to rent out your space, but like, is it really worth your time when you could just put that time right back into dentistry, make a higher profit for like per hour that you put into it? Then you don't have to worry about, food excess, trying to like strangle that 10% profit margin. Why
Yep.
wouldn't you just stick it right back into dentistry?
Well, that's an interesting question, Nikki. But like, I read a book years ago about dentistry, and it was about professional corporations. And the very first chapter of the introduction said there's two types of people in dentistry. There's professionals who find themselves in business, and there's business people who happen to be professionals. I'm strictly the latter. I've had a calling from my youth to do business. I love business. I love the challenge of it. It's interesting. I guess my goal one day is to not have to work and be able to make money from my businesses running themselves. But like, this leads directly into why I started an SaaS business, a software business. SaaS stands for software as a subscription. Somebody told me that after I started it, and I had to Google what SaaS meant, because I was like, what is an SaaS business? Turns out I'm in it. So I started a software company because of how challenging the brewery was. I wanted to do something online, something in technology, digitally, to give me freedom of movement, freedom of living wherever I wanted, freedom of moving the company to different jurisdictions if I wanted, not being tied to one location. As you know, the Canadian government is very tough on business owners, and if your business is immovable, like, I read the tax treaty between Canada and Barbados, and Paul Martin set this up in the 90s, because he owned a shipping company, and Barbados is like one of the major tax havens for Canada. And I read the darn thing, and it's super interesting because, like, on the first $1 million, like, profit, like, you're taxed 1%, and then it's like 2% on the next million. It's crazy. If you have a multinational business, do you know who is not allowed to offshore their business to Barbados? Two people: professionals and real estate owners.
Really?
Yes. So you cannot offshore your professional corporation and ownership of your 24-op clinic building to Barbados.
Yeah.
You're stuck in Canada. Sorry. So
Yeah.
I just find that really, like, it's like, if you own a shipping company like Paul Martin, you set up laws that benefit you. If you own a company that you can move jurisdictions and make things in on the internet or in one country and ship it to another, it's like, rich people make the laws, right? Not that I'm promoting not paying taxes or getting around laws, but like, I just find it very frustrating that, like, you take risk as a business owner to succeed in life. Like, you borrowed a ton of money, you hire people, you try to succeed and offer wonderful dentistry for your community, but like, the government doesn't really appreciate that, right? And they just changed the laws a few years ago about like passive income in your professional corporation and being able to dividend numbered company or PC income to a spouse that maybe stayed at home and
So
supported you. Like,
So
I
Derek, this is where, like, as Albertans, me and you, we feel the same way. But then, like, it's interesting because then now we have a kill. He's an Easterner and from Toronto, and they don't share the same like I feel like as Albertans, especially rural Albertans, we both have like pure hatred for the government and the tax
I
code
didn't I
and
didn't say I
every.
hate the government. I think we live in a
Oh, I
wonderful
do.
country.
I of
I
course,
think
but
we don't
the
know how good
laws
we
are
have
crap.
it, and if you travel, you will find we have it phenomenally well. And what
Absolutely. And we just have to play within the rules, right?
that's correct.
And the rules aren't always fair. I understand that. But like,
No,
can you set up your software company to be in Barbados, like set up a different company? Is that what you're getting at here?
well, in theory, you just have to make a lot of money to do that because it costs a lot for corporations and lawyers and stuff. But um, as an aside, I have one of my neighbors out where I live with the cow in the barn and such. He's an old oil man. He used to work in Brazil and Colombia, and he said one of the things we don't appreciate about Canada is the almost absolute lack of kidnapping and violent crime
Oh,
that
totally.
we enjoy here.
Yeah.
And if my family was in Colombia or Brazil, they would be marked coming home from school and kidnapped to ransom my kids because they're different and I'm rich. So like we live in a very wonderful and safe country, and I think a lot of people don't appreciate that. So I'm not bad mouthing the country to the exclusion of everything else. I'm just saying the reason I started a software company was because like twofold. First of all, I wanted to do I like business. I wanted to challenge. I wanted to do something on the internet. And nextly, I want to improve the dental industry. Like I asked myself if I'm going to do something in technology, what industry can I improve? And then the next question is what industry I know enough about that I can change. And for example, say I said, oh, I want to make software for the 1 hour or 10-minute quick lubes you go to get your oil changed in your car. I don't know anything about that. I've never worked there.
Yeah.
I don't know the problems they have. I don't know any issues that I could solve. I don't know anything about that business. And you don't either. But like I said to myself, I really do understand the dental industry. I tried striking out into the brewing industry, and one of the most challenging things was not understanding how the industry worked, like who the players were, who the buyers were, who the managers at stores were, who made the purchasing decisions, how the marketing worked, the laws and regulations. There was a steep learning curve for that. But if I said to you, do you know who the players are in the dental industry? There's DSOs, there's supply companies, there's office managers, there's receptionists, there's I know how the whole industry works, and I understand the difficulties that we have, and how we can improve it, and why I started toothe was because I really really want to improve the communication of our industry. I said to myself, it's really frustrating talking to other dental clinics, and there isn't a product on the market that facilitates office to office communication. There's tons of products to help you talk to your patients. There's tons
Right.
of products to help you find staff and deal with HR issues and get reviews from your patients. But there isn't a lot of products in the market that connect our silos, because your clinic is a silo and my clinic's a silo, and we have all these patients that live around the silo, and we text them and phone them and send them bills and collect money. And then once in a while, when I was in Wainwright, I'd say, geez, this is a really tough case. I'm going to send it to my buddy Necky. And how do I send
Yeah.
it to you? Well, I'd email it to you or fax it to you or put it in the mail and send it to Lloydminster. And there really just isn't a good platform to connect all these silos. Like what do you use? Do you use OpenDent or ClearDent?
I use text message.
No, for your practice management software.
Oh, man, I'm like, I don't know. I just text my dentist around me. I'm like, hey, man, I don't know what I'm doing here. Can you help me? I use power practice.
Power practice? Okay. I use Dentrix. Do you care?
Okay. Nope.
I don't. Do you?
Should I?
Great. Use
Okay,
power
good.
practice. How's that going for you? I don't care. It doesn't matter,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But that's the problem with the silo. So I wanted to build something that if I said, "Hey, Neki, Akil and I are both on toothe. We can talk to each other. We can share information. We can verify that we got it. We've built a referral communication platform for sharing information with our patients. You should join us. Then our offices can all talk to each other and we can chat with each other and share information. And by the way, it's compliant. That's how we're going to improve the compliance of the dental industry by putting everybody onto one communication and referral platform. And now suddenly, if you're on toothe and I'm on toothe and Akil's on toothe, we care now. Instead of you have some other practice management system that it doesn't concern me because I'm in my silo and I got all my stuff here and I don't really care. So I wanted to connect these silos.
I'm just so confused, man. Like, why can't you just send an email? Like, if I want to talk to Emil, I'd just be like, "Hey, homie,
No, I'm not talking about just
here's a
talking to them. I'm
question."
talking about sharing patient
Okay.
health information with them. According to the Health Information Act and the rules that govern sharing of x-rays and referrals and documents for patient health records, you can't send it with an email.
So do people get in
Really?
trouble for emailing photos of
Yeah,
an
so
X-ray?
you're still in school now, Kayla, right?
Yeah.
So you don't have a practice yet. So like dental professionals, whether they're dentists or hygienists or denturists, lab techs, they're governed by regulation or legislation about how they share so collect, use, disclose, and protect health information is what's covered by most provinces' health regulations. In Alberta, it's a Health Information Act, and we have the strictest regulation in the whole country. There's certain things that are required of information managers that you use to share health information, not least of which is tiered access based on user role. So if you're a doctor, a hygienist, or a receptionist, you have to have different levels of access based on employment role. Unique login IDs, so sharing passwords is a big no-no, and then access event logging for view, edit, delete, read functions. To track what people have done. So if somebody's up to no good in deleting records and they quit, you got to see what they've changed, right? So the requirement of information managers, of which toothe is an information manager, are quite strict and laid out in legislation. And a lot of people are either willfully ignorant or succumb to wishful thinking that, we use Hushmail, it's probably good enough, right? Hope so. But
Or Hotmail.
Hotmail, yeah, that's not good enough. MySpace, is that still a thing? I think our clinics were on MySpace back in the day, Neki.
Maybe. But like, how do you go from like, okay, so you have an idea and you're like, hey, I want to build this communication platform. How do you make it into reality? Like, where's like step one, idea, step two, what's step two?
So we spent a year. So the first thing I did, I decided I wanted to do this thing. I didn't even know I wanted to call it toothe then. But I met a young lady who my wife knew through our homeschool network. My wife homeschools in addition to making cheese. And she knew this lady that was had a passion for online business and marketing. And we actually hired her to do the social media and website for the brewery. And she did amazing work. And then I hired her to do the website for my dental office to upgrade it. And she did amazing work. And I found out she went to school for user experience or UX design. And that's what she trained in, is like wireframing and how buttons work and how people navigate a website. It's much, when you see a website that is simple and intuitive, it is anything but to get it to that point. It is extremely difficult and convoluted with a lot of dedication that's gone into making it look simple and intuitive. So she went to school for that. So I asked her if she wanted to start a business with me doing software, doing a subscription-based revenue model in the dental industry. And she said yes, she would. So we started meeting, her husband and her and my wife and I. We met every 2 weeks at our house or their house on Sundays, and we started going through entrepreneurship books and how to start a SAS company. And we ended up fleshing out what we wanted. And then I called all my friends who are specialists in Edmonton at King's Royal Surgery, Signature Ortho, Darcy Perusini at Avenue, J-Lo Endo and Sean Fisher Periodontics. So I got pretty much all the specialties, and they were kind enough to let me come up and talk to their admin team, the receptionists. And we went up there and we talked to their admin team and sat them down and said, what are the problems you have dealing with offices like mine? Because I knew if I didn't build it to help specialists and we couldn't get specialists on it, we wouldn't get the whole dental industry on it. Because if it worked for general dentists, but specialists were like, it doesn't work for us, we'd have nowhere to send records to or referrals to, right? So they told me 3 things. They said, we get too much information, or sorry, we get too many phone calls. We're missing information when we get it, as in call Joe in Fort McMurray, but no last name, no phone number. And we don't know if people got anything. So Kingsway Oral Surgery, for example, has 8 receptionists and they get 12 to 1,500 phone calls a day. Over half of them are from dental offices. I mean, they're paying tons of people to sit there and answer the phone. Missing information is a huge problem. People, like, you laugh about it, but this is like the thermostat in your dental office that everybody fights over all day. It's like laughable, but it's not, because there's women or people in the dental office fighting over the temperature, and it's tough, right? Missing information is a huge problem.
It's always me moving the thermostat around too, man. Everyone gets so
they hate
mad
you.
at me.
Yeah, stop doing that. Let the
Man, it's
let
so
your
freaking
staff,
cold in there, man.
let your staff pick the temperature. You'll be happier. Missing information is referrals that don't have everything, and then they phone them and say, what's Joe's last name, what's his phone number, what teeth do you want pulled out? They get referrals saying, pull out some teeth for Joe in Fort McMurray. So and then the last one is, we don't know if they got anything. People phone and say, we never got that, and they say, well, we sent it. Well, I didn't get it. Well, where'd you send it to? This email. Well, I don't have it. Check your spam. Okay, it's not in spam. Can you send it again? Well, I still didn't get it. Like, this is a problem. This is more phone calls.
Yeah.
So we built Toothe to do 3 things. I call it chat, share, verify. So chat is, it connects your silo and my silo, and they don't have to phone each other anymore. We have office to office chat or text message. You can write a message and say, hey, Wayside Dental, one of your patients just moved to Rimbey. Could I get the x-rays for Mrs. Jones? This is mundane stuff that we used to pick up the phone for. And your staff will say, when they're not dealing with a patient, yeah, we'll send that right over. And then they share it on Toothe. So chat, share is documents, x-rays, referrals, and CBCT scans up to 1 gigabyte. I can make it 10 gigabytes tomorrow. It doesn't matter. It's just most people don't send over 1 gigabyte yet. And then when you get it, you claim it, and my office or your office would see, Shanna at Nordstrom Dental Rimbey claimed that x-ray we sent that they asked for at 2:30 on Thursday. And you're like, cool, good. I know they got it. I can verify that.
2:30.
I heard 2:30. That's right. That's the best time.
Man, I just heard that joke like last year. The patient wrote it out for me, and I'm like, how did I not know this? This is 2:30. What's Dent's favorite time?
I saw that in the morning floss.
With Toothe.
Yeah.
2:30 with Toothe.
So how'd you come up with Toothe?
Well, I like the word Toothe with a Y. It just sounds kind of like, you have a toothy grin. It's like, it sounds nice, but the Toothe with a Y is a 6-letter website, and they wanted $36,000 American for the website. And also, I don't like Y's because they look stabby and pokey. And my wife said, well, what about Toothe with an E? Because the E is like rounded and friendly looking, and it's like email, like everyone sees E's. And the website for Toothe with an E was still 6 letters, and it was only, I don't know, it was under 3,000 American to buy that domain. So Toothe with an E it was.
So I got a question. So do you integrate with the individual practice softwares, or is your software completely independent?
Not yet. So we built what's called a web app. So a few years ago, this wouldn't even been possible. The last few years, all the programming has gone into web apps. What that is are programs that run over your browser, much like Amazon or Facebook or Instagram. You just go on Google Chrome or Brave and you log in, and there's a program running on the web browser. You don't download an exe file. So that's a totally different kind of program than like you download an exe file on each workstation and it's running things on your computer. So they work quite a bit differently. You can still have APIs integrating, but you'd have to have an exe file. The API for Dentrix, for example, is like 50 or 60,000 American. And then you have to have a help
desk. What's that API?
application program interface. It's what talks to Dentrix to like suck out the patient names and stuff for sending. So we're a small startup. I don't have that kind of money to buy the APIs for like Power Practice. Yeah, you can buy the APIs from the companies, like Recall Max, for example, which I use, is a great program. They integrate with like virtually all major practice management softwares or PMSs. But you're doing such a volume of information, texting patients, sending recall reminders. You need it to do that, but they're a big enough company they can do that. So to answer your question, no, it's expensive and difficult, and you have to have a help desk to run these things, because when programs don't mesh up like they should and the gears are like hitting, people phone and be like, your program's not pulling out the names from Dentrix. What's going on? And it's usually an API issue. So we don't integrate, but we don't really have a lot of information. Like if you wanted to send me an X-ray or referral, you just export the X-ray from your PMS onto your desktop, attach it to toothe. It sends it in an encrypted and secure manner to the other office, keeping you compliant with the health regulations.
So just so I understand, so I can just go on Chrome, go to toothe, and then talk to my specialist office if they're on toothe at the same time, and then I can just say, yo, what's up? Here's Akil's X-ray.
Do you refer to Kingsway? What do you refer to specialists for? You do it all yourself, man.
Man, that's the number one problem dentists have. Just because we know how to do everything means that we don't like send stuff out. I send out a ton of stuff, and that's why I think a lot of dentists get into trouble. Because they take everything on.
So yes, toothe allows you to send to any office, and that keeps you compliant. But if the other office is on toothe, you get the chat, share, and verify features. So then you can, so this is about, if I'm on it and you're on it, but Akil's not on it, we say, hey, why don't you join toothe and we can all chat, and you can direct message each other, or we could have an office chat with each other. And then like the number one person I talk to on toothe is my denturist, because we're always talking about cases we're working on in my small town. And he's like, oh man, that rest prep wasn't deep enough. I'm like, I'll send him back. I'll prep it again for you. No charge, no problem. So we don't have to play phone tag anymore, and it's secure and encrypted communication. So it cuts out phone calls. And then we can share X-rays and referrals. And then the verify feature is when you get it, your staff will know that your office received it, and vice versa. And then we also allow encrypted emails to patients without a password, which is really handy, because patients don't like having to sign up for the service that you're using to send them their health records if they request them. So we have an email a patient feature that doesn't need a password, and they don't have to sign up for it. And that was a suggestion from the Dental Association when we're doing our market research. That's one of the most common questions they get is, how do we send stuff to patients?
So like Netflix charges, I don't know, $20 a month. Spotify is $14.99. Dentrix is whatever. Toothe is what? How much is that per month?
So we've priced it at $129 a month. And the catch is that includes everybody. So if you have one administrator or 92 staff, like the biggest office in Edmonton who's on toothe, it's still the same price. Because as I said earlier, unique login IDs or individual passwords are a requirement to be compliant. And if your staff are sharing a password to save money because you're using the free option or don't want to pay per user, that price can get quite high. So I didn't want a financial disincentive to compliance, because my goal is legitimately to make the industry more compliant, but make something that's awesome to use. And people say, hey, Neki, you should join toothe because it's awesome. And oh, by the way, it's compliant. Not it's compliant, your staff will hate it, but you have to use it. So I didn't want to price it.
Which office has 92 people?
Kingsway Oral Surgery.
They have 92 staff?
Yeah.
My goodness, Akil, can you imagine walking into an office with 92 staff? I need like 6 office managers.
Yeah, it's a very well-run practice. I have a lot of.
Oh my goodness.
They actually worked very closely with us building toothe. They were one of the offices I went and talked to doing market research, and bounced off wireframing screenshots of like what we were working on, and they gave us really good feedback about the referral page about stuff we were missing for them. So they were very helpful.
How do you come up with like, okay, so you start with this idea, the communication idea, you talk to your website person. Let's form a business. Let's start meeting every
Yep.
Sunday.
Yep.
Now I'm going to like, you get all this ideas, and then how do you execute it? Because like dentists, we're good at executing.
So the hard part was finding somebody to actually program it and build it, because once we had all the ideas, we figured out what we wanted to do. We wrote a brief about like, we want toothe, and we didn't even know what we were going to call it then. We said, we want this program that connects offices and it does these things, and we can text each other. And I bounced it off my staff too every day. I was like, so what do you think if you could text the office across town instead of phoning them to get x-rays? And they were just like, their jaws hit the floor. And they're like, that'd be amazing. We hate the phone. I'm like, you're a receptionist. What do you mean you hate the phone? And they're like, we don't like answering the phone or talking on the phone. They're like millennials. And they're like, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, I think I might have something here. Cool. So we wrote a brief about what we wanted this program to do. And then we started looking for a firm to build it, or someone to build it. And we were very, very lucky. We put an ad on Indeed. We tried to interview some people. We did a couple Zoom interviews of people that like said they designed programs but didn't really know a lot about it, or seemed like they were just BSing. We didn't really want to send a bunch of money overseas to have it done in like Southeast Asia or something, like Vietnam, India. You can get programs built.
Can you just hire someone off Fiverr to do it, or is that just like too much?
The concern is they don't do a good job, or they do a decent job but then they rip it off, and you start toothe one day, then there's like toothe with 2es.com that launches the next day doing the same thing. Like, this is a legitimate problem. So I'm not a programmer, but we were able to, through our network, my partner, her husband, through his church actually, met somebody who knew a family that the two brothers are insanely good programmers, and one of them is high up in Google and the other one freelances out of Alberta. So we were able to meet this guy and started meeting with him and talking with him, and he gave us a lot of really valuable feedback. So if you ever want to hire someone to do something, like, I've hired people that were like, oh, Derek, you're so smart, Derek, that's genius, we'll do that, give me your money. Like, those people you want to avoid. When you hire somebody that says, are you sure you want to do that? You don't want to do that way. You found somebody good. So when I hired the architects to build my office here that I'm sitting in, I told them, my wife and I, oh, we want to, make it look like a mountain chalet with lots of rock and wood and stone and stuff. And you're like, oh, that sounds cool. The architect said to us, why do you want to do that? You're in the prairies. You're not in the mountains. And we're like, well, we don't really know. We just thought that would look cool. So he's like, you don't want to do that. That won't fit in your small town. You want something called prairie vernacular architecture. And he showed us a bunch of pictures, and we're like, wow, this looks amazing. It looks like an old barn. And, so you want to hire people that are confident in their abilities to push back a bit and tell you where you're wrong, and tell you how they would do it and how that'll benefit you. And we found this programmer in Alberta that basically pushed back and said, well, I think what you're doing is great, but you don't even know what you're building. You want to build a web app because this is far cheaper and this is how the world's going. And you're building it this way, and you should do this and that. And, and we're like, yeah, that sounds pretty good. Because it'd be like someone who's never built a house tries to design a house, right? They're like, well, I want some rooms in it. And, I don't know, I guess I need a roof, right? But like all the back end stuff, like I showed in the Health Information Act about, like, look, we need unique login IDs, tiered access, and access event logging built in from day one. And he's like, okay, cool, that's no problem, but thanks for telling me. That's the foundation. So we found a guy in Central Alberta that we could sit in his living room and talk to him about this. And he's a very, very smart guy. And he actually has a firm, and him and his company that he works with, actually, they're in video game development. So they do freelance work for companies like myself, doing software for money, like a contractor relationship. And then they use that money to pay their staff to advance development of their video game they're working on. So that's kind of their business model. So all the money stayed local. We have I'm meeting them on Thursday to talk about version 10. Like, we're on planning version 10 of toothe right now. So we've released almost an upgrade every month since we launched it last year.
Right on. Well, Derek, man, what a pleasure having you on the podcast. We brought it from dentistry to brewery to toothe. So appreciate you taking the time, man, and coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you
It's
guys.
just
I
so cool,
appreciate the
man.
opportunity.
So cool. Yeah. Man, it's cool that I got to see you as a dentist and then as a brewery owner and now as a software SAS. Was it SAS? SASS?
Software as a subscription.
Or
Software as a subscription. We gotta develop our own app here at Kill. We're gonna figure something out. Derek, keep us in the back of your mind.
If
so
you
we can
are heading through Alberta this summer, Necky, or if you're coming down to Kiel to see Necky, hit me up. You guys can come by the brewery. I can show you all the tanks and how we make beer.
Yeah, we'd love to.
Love to have you.
Would love to.
I love it,
we
man.
Talk dentistry.
Can you get Negronis in there, man?
For you, Necky, anything.
Yeah, thanks, man. All right, man. Love you, buddy. Thank you so much for coming on the pod. We'll talk to you soon.
Welcome to the Hi, I'm Necky. Is that
What's
a
up,
sweater?
Yeah, dude, it's the Hi, I'm Doctor sweater. Oh, dude, I see you got yours on too. Looking sharp, bro.
Dude, where'd you get yours from?
It was super easy, man. I just went on to our website, www.hiimdoctor.com. That's HIIMDR.com.
We have a website. We must be raking in cash from selling these sweaters.
Dude, we are killing it. I mean, if that includes losing money on every single sweater that we make, I think we're doing really well.
Yeah, Necky and I are donating all proceeds, which is zero, to charity because we are losing money.
I wonder if the charity will pay us. I think we got something here, man. Let's keep on keep on losing money on every sweater.
Alrighty, guys, go check us out. hiimdoctor.com.
We'll see ya.